If you're looking to do some more truck camping and you want some gadgets to help make things a little more enjoyable and fun, I've got a whole list of things that I think are worth the money, make things better. And started out is, it's a puppy. You just need one of those and then you're good. She's shivering right now. She loves the snow, but I think she played a little too hard. The first thing actually is this. This is an electric blanket. It's really cheap. It's 12 volt, runs off your cigarette plug in your car or else off of a battery. And it's actually pretty low watt usage. And so it helps to kind of just take the edge off of the cold. And so we've used this here recently with her when we're sleeping in the tent when it's really cold. And once she's on top of it, it seems like she just is totally fine, you know. It's the cold running around in the snow that gets her chilly. So the electric blanket, definitely worth it. Just nice way to take the edge off with not a big energy cost. Hey, where are you going? The next thing is a stove. Now, you guys have probably seen that I absolutely love Jetboils, the little ones, like the backpacking style ones, and I still do, use them a ton, but I've found that if I'm going to be cooking at the truck, I like to have like a bigger, you know, propane style stove, and so I've had a traditional style, like the 2-burner Coleman-esque one for a long time, but they're just a little bit of a pain in the butt because you have to carry pots and pans with them, they rattle around, they're kind of big, and so I recently just got this set up, which is a 2-burner stove that runs off of propane, these cheap little canisters, and then there's also a pot and a pan that it comes nested in here, and they're really big and work really well. And then there's also a lid that works on either one. And so here in the last few weeks alone, use this to make a bunch of different stuff, camping down in Moab, and haven't had it that long, only a couple months, but so far absolutely loving it. So one of these things is great if you're at the rig, or if you need something that's more universal than those smaller Jetboils like the Stash. We've used extensively this year on backpacking trips overseas, around, you know, everywhere pretty much, but that's better for small little, you know, cooking projects, or else water for dehydrated meals and things like that. Okay, the next one up is a battery. Now this is a big one. We have two of them. One's much smaller. This one lives in the truck, the other one in the car, and we use it for recharging our phones, our laptops, cameras, all sorts of stuff like that, as well as running that electric blanket and even a little heater if we need to. And they're just incredibly helpful, especially if you're trying to work while you're on the road and you have to have a reliable energy source. So you can get whatever size you need depending on your usage. Obviously, this is a really big one. And then you can run 110 outlets, USB, USB-C, or just your standard 12 volt. And they tell you, you know, what your percentage is. And then when you go to recharge them, you can do it on a wall plug at a coffee shop or at home, or else you can use solar, or you can charge them while you're driving off of your 12 volt outlet inside of your vehicle. So these batteries are a game changer if you need a little extra heat, or you're gonna need to recharge anything while you're out and about. Okay, the next one is a water filter. So this is a bladder and a filter together, and there's all sorts of different forms of this combination, and I've used the Sawyer for a long time. They're probably been the most popular, but here this last summer I switched over to this one, which is just a different brand. It's a little bit more of a pliable bag because I was having issues with the bags cracking a lot, constantly having to replace the bladders, as well as the filters were just slow. It took a lot of effort to squeeze water through, and I actually just found myself not wanting to drink water because I didn't want to have to filter more water, so I'd get dehydrated, and it was kind of a bad cycle. And so I got this one this summer, used it for 12 days straight in Alaska, filtering out of a river, and that was the first time I'd used it, and I absolutely loved it because it was really silty water, and so it was just impressive. So this is my go-to now. This one's 3 liter, but they have different size bladders, and the filter, when you need to clean it, you can just back flush it, or you can replace these filters, and so they just come apart. You just scoop the water up from whatever your water source is, put the filter in, and then squeeze it into your mouth or into another bottle. And I like to just keep one of these with me most of the time when I'm out doing any activity away from the vehicle, or if I'm out on an adventure, because it's just kind of cheap insurance in case you run out of water. You can use this, and then if you know there are water sources, then you don't have to pack water with you. So this is a really nice little tool. Another great piece of gear is a good cooler. So there seems to be a lot of different options out there these days. I'm sure they're all great, but I have definitely found that having a good cooler makes it so much easier to pack groceries when you're out on the road, and then you can save money on food, and it'll just stay good longer. So I use one year round just as a container. So in the summer you throw ice in it, in the winter you don't, and it just helps to regulate that temperature so that the day to nighttime fluctuation slows it down, and then you just add ice or subtract ice depending on the ambient temperature. Next up is recovery gear. So if you're going anywhere that is away from cell service, away from, main roads, and especially if you're by yourself, you need to have a way to get your vehicle unstuck if you do get stuck. And you can go the expensive route and get a winch and all that stuff, which is awesome and obviously preferable. But if you don't, like I don't have a winch, I just carry a come along with me, which is just basically a hand winch, and it has a cable. Then I carry some straps. So then if you get stuck, you can either wrap up a tree or make a dead man, bury it in the ground, and use that as an anchor. And then that can just be just enough to help tug you free, as well as tracks, which are just traction boards that you put in front of your tire, and they give your tire a nice grippy surface to grab onto and climb out of whatever you're stuck in, whether it's snow or sand or mud or in a ditch, whatever it is. So have a way to get yourself out. And then that leads into the next one. Now, I've talked about these before, and I'm going to talk about them again because they're really one of the most important ones, I think, and that is a little satellite texting device. So this is a Garmin, and it connects to my phone via Bluetooth. And I just keep it on my shoulder strap when I'm hiking or in my bag whenever I'm doing anything else. And that all started after I was by myself one time a handful of years ago, and I fell down this rock face, and fortunately didn't get hurt too bad, but I was like multiple miles from the vehicle and multiple hours from cell service by myself. Nobody even knew I was out there because I was an idiot. And so yeah, this would have easily helped me out had I broken a leg and been stuck out there. It has an SOS button on it, and you can text directly from the device, or you connect it to your phone, and that just makes it easier because you can type longer messages. You can send your location out and allow people to track you, whatever it is. Next up is having a saw. So depending on your situation, if you have a lot of space, I really recommend these little battery saws. I borrowed one a couple years ago, ended up falling in love with it, so I bought my own. And it's just a little DeWalt 12 volt. You can get them in different brands depending on what batteries you might already have. They just run off your standard batteries, and they're pretty impressive for just clearing, things off of the road or cutting a little bit of firewood for camp. They're surprisingly effective. They're lightweight. They're pretty much silent, and there's no mess with the gas, so you still have to oil them, but they're an awesome option. I wouldn't use them for cutting a ton of firewood, but for little things, they're really effective and way more compact than a traditional saw. And then if you don't have the space, or you want something that you can carry with you while you're out hiking, these Silky saws, this is the Pocket Boy. It's just a little folding saw, and they are incredibly useful. They cut really quickly, and so if you'd rather have something that's just compact that you can fit in your pocket, I definitely recommend one of these. I carry both in my truck, and in the winter, I'll throw this in the pack when we're going out, backpacking, and then this will just stay in the truck all the time. And then next up is kind of in the same lane, and that's axe. I've got two. This one stays in the truck. It's a great little camp axe. You can use it for obviously cutting firewood, clearing stuff off the road. There's no battery, nothing, so it, always works. And then you can also use it as a hammer if you need to be pounding in stakes for tents, or you need to, whatever it is. And then I have this little one as well, and this guy is really low profile and lightweight, and I will carry it with me if we're going out again in the winter, and I want to be able to cut firewood. So just a really small little axe. It's kind of like a knife with a handle, and so it doesn't have a lot of weight to it, but you can use another stick to drive it into things if you are splitting wood, and you can easily shave down kindling, stuff like that, for getting a fire going when it's cold out. All right, now we got a headlamp. Again, you might have seen this before because I've been carrying this one for multiple years now. Super lightweight, tiny little compact rechargeable light, and it is surprisingly bright. I've carried, again, this same one for multiple years now and been super impressed with it. So just a nice little piece, especially if you don't anticipate needing one and you want something that's really compact. This thing is very light, and you can just shove it in a little pocket. I like to keep this with my satellite phone and my water filter, and those three together are kind of like this little, emergency kit that I pretty much always take, along with some other stuff. All right, this one is a Dutch oven. If you've used a Dutch oven before, you know how awesome they are. I hadn't until a couple of years ago. Sadie and I got one as a wedding gift, and since then I've started to fall in love with it. It takes a little bit of time to get used to it, but they are indestructible. You can put them in the fire, you can use charcoal, whatever it is, and once they get hot, because they're heavy and they're thick, they distribute the heat really well, and they just cook food really effectively. So we've been using this a bunch recently to cook steaks and whatever stuff, and you can do it on the fire. So if you're going to be car based and you can handle a little bit of weight like this, I think this is such a cool way to cook things. You can do steak, you can use it as an oven, or just like saute things as if it's a pan. Okay, next up is a good coffee making kit. If you're like me and you love coffee, having it while you're camping, especially when it's cold, I don't think there's anything better. And so this is the setup that I've been using for a couple years. So you've got to have a stove to get things warm. So I use a Jetboil just to boil the water. And then I like to do fresh ground coffee. So I carry this grinder. It's expensive, but I've been using it every day. I don't have another grinder. So at home, while camping, all the time for 2 years, and it is still going strong. So grind the coffee with this bad boy, and then I have an AeroPress Go, and this is just a compact package. It has a cup built in, and it's a coffee press that you can use to make a delicious cup of coffee. And then if you want to keep things a little bit more simple with your coffee making kit, or if you're going backpacking and you want to stay light, I've recently started using these this last spring. These are just little filters. They're pour over filters. They have arms that are nested into the side. They're a paper filter. You just open them up, and then you can carry a bag of ground coffee, whatever type that you prefer. Then you just add however much you want to, hook this over the sides of your cup, and then you just pour boiling water over that. And then when you're done, you just have a tiny little paper filter that you have to get rid of. So it's really compact, lightweight. You can carry it with you, and I've loved this for backpacking. Used it for a whole trip in Europe this summer when we went backpacking, and it just made every single morning super enjoyable without, you know, having to carry a full coffee kit. Next up is a good camp knife. So this guy, fortunately, got as a wedding gift, and it was from my buddy. It's a super nice Benchmade knife, and I use it for everything, whether you're cleaning fish, you're trying to carve up meat, or chop veggies, whatever it is. It just makes cooking while camping so much more enjoyable. It's ridiculously sharp, and it has stayed sharp for me, and it's nicer than any knife that I even have at home. So definitely love having this thing. Also carry a pocket knife from the same brand, and it's super light, easy to use. So this little combo, good knives are amazing. I know they're expensive, and so you certainly don't have to go this route, but just having something that you can rely on just makes things so much more enjoyable. All right, so these are a handful of my favorites. And now, always put gas in your tank first. Only if you have extra cash burning a hole, spend it on these random things, but you don't need them. You got the time off work, go enjoy yourself, and then over time, pick things up like this. And if you want to learn more about adventure travel in general or gear like this, check out my website, roadtoridge.com, where I have a bunch of other stuff along this topic.